Hello, this is Pastor Roland. Today I want to talk about wholeness. An easy way to understand wholeness is that the body is supposed to be working together. In other words, the cells, tissue, organs, entire systems all work together for a common purpose, a common good. And the soul and the mind and the body are one. Okay? Now in the ideal system, let's talk about the ideal system. You have a chain of command from top to bottom. In the ideal system, the chain of command starts with God. Okay, then Christ, and then the soul, okay, and then the mind and body. You could consider the body to be like the child. The soul is a parent of the body. Now, when you have a system of order, see, now suppose you had a person, a beautiful being, um, somewhat like little children before they are corrupted by the world, before they're tormented and teased and taunted and challenged and slapped down and twisted and traumatized and, you know. But suppose you had a beautiful adult being, like Christ, for example. This person would be in God's will, would do God's will, would be subject to God out of love, obedient to God's will, out of love. Okay? And it would be a system of perfect justice, of perfect order. Perfect order, perfect justice. And purpose, which would be God's purpose. And because there would be perfect justice, there would be no need for a rebellion. Okay? That would be the perfect system. It's almost something like a perfect family, if you could find such a thing, which I don't think you can hardly, but it's possible. They do exist. Not perfect, but very good family. Let's say very good. Where you have a good father, a father who loves principle, who loves truth, who does what is right, is noble, doesn't have any vices. Okay? He has a beyond. There's a beyond to him. He's not shallow. He's not animal. He's not like a big kid. There's a beyond. Okay? Now that noble father, that good father, okay, the wife and the children, they could respect that good father, and love that good father. Okay? And father, because he has wisdom, okay, and love and kindness, it's a system of justice. See? It's a system of perfect justice, so there's nothing to rebel against. Well, people would still rebel anyway, but the point is when they rebel, they'd be rebelling without a cause. And when they see that he responds to their rebellion with patience and kindness and forbearance and, see, that sort of thing, well then most of them would come back, but not all. Some. See, we have our choice in life. But let's get back to the body again. If the person had a perfect allegiance to God, because he loves God, or she loves God, loves what is right, loves what is good, loves what is innocent, okay? Then all would be in line with that, in accord with that. But now let's say that. But now let's talk about what happens to people. First of all, we're born in a fallen world with fallen authorities, and we're subject to those fallen authorities in the world. We can't help that. That's the way we're born. So we're subject to imperfect parents, imperfect teachers and coaches and everyone else. But a lot of times they're not only imperfect, but they're out of order. Dad is weak, dad is violent or weak. See, mom is angry at her husband. She's willful. Okay? Other people have wrong ideas. They try to force ideas on you. Or even if the ideas are right, they try to force them on you. They pressure you, in other words, and tease you. See? Challenge you. So what happens then is because of that, we end up conforming to what is wrong. A classic example is you go to school. You're sent to a terrible school, awful school. Most schools are not so good. Even when I was a kid, schools were not so good. Back then, I remember there was bullying and all kinds of stuff going on. Okay, but they're much worse now. So the child is sent to this terrible environment by unaware parents. See, that's an injustice right there. If father were aware and mom were aware, then they would undoubtedly, see, like in places where it's legal, like the United States, then they would homeschool the children. See? But instead, they sent them to a terrible school, and then bad things happen there. Okay? And one of the bad things that happens is that the children become subject to the peer group. See, the peer group, which are, and so before long the child is pressured to conform to the peer group. Now, it's bad enough the child shouldn't be put in that environment in the first place. But if the child is put in that environment, if, father were noble and mom were noble, then they would see what's going on and they would take the child out of that terrible school and put him in another school, a better school, a private school, or homeschool them, you see. But ideally that the child would be able to withstand the pressure because of the good father at home, the good authority at home. But when father is weak or absent, see, then the authority is weak or wrong. And then the child conforms. See, most people conform to the strongest influence. When the good father is not the strongest influence, then the child conforms to the peer group. See, and before long, the child is going along with foolish things, silly things, bad things. See, taking drugs and who knows what. See, and too much of everything, and the child conforms to that. So now the child becomes conformed to that. So now you see the child is no longer a whole. Part of the child now is subject to the authority of the peer group. See? And no longer subject to the good father, but subject to the peer group and others. See? So you got the idea. So now you see the problem is that before long there are conflicting authorities that come along. And before long people are subject to all kinds of things. Now when there's not a good father, see, a good parent, then the child begins to react and conform to all kinds of things. And the child becomes outer-directed and outer-conditioned. But now let's talk about the body. Remember, I said the body is like a child and the soul is like the parent. So when the soul, see, is not conforming to out of love, and is not completely loyal, and doesn't have a perfect allegiance to, which most people don't. Now let's be honest. That is you are supposed to become that way. Okay, you grow up in the wrong home, wrong peers, wrong environment. You make mistakes. You become angry. You become rebellious. You become resentful. You do many things. Okay, and you conform to the world. Okay, Paul said, "Be not conformed to the world, but transformed through the renewing of your mind." Well, we become conformed to the world. Why? Because we're born to wrong authorities and we're born in sin. We're born with a little ego, and we're born with an ego weakness. And we don't have a perfect allegiance to what is right. But that's okay, so we conform to the world. But then at some point, when we become adults, then suffering, we suffer for our mistakes. Some of us, not all of us, but some of us yearn for something more, something pure, something good. And then we yearn for what is good. Okay? And then we seek and then we find. Okay? And then we have a change of heart. A change of heart, a change of allegiance from the world, see, which we look to. Not only were we forced to conform to the world, as I have already laid out, but we also then but when you conform to the world, you lose something. You lose something of your soul, of your identity, of your self-sovereignty, see, and of what you could have been if you hadn't conformed. You could have been an Einstein, a Madame Curie, a George Washington, see, a Ruth, a Paul. See, you could have been, who knows what you might have been if the world hadn't messed with you, see, and you hadn't end up conforming and losing. So we have a sense of loss. And because of that sense of loss, we don't realize that what we lost was from within, and can only be regained from within by a change of heart and turning back to the source of what we could have been. See, God then can give you your proper identity, and then you can grow in that identity, see, nurtured and supported by God. But what happened was you lost out in the world, so then you tried to get back what you lost from the world. So you looked for love, so you lost love. So you look for love out there, and all you got was use and abuse. And you tried to compensate, so you looked for worldly things, and for money, and knowledge, and prestige, and all the things, and popularity, all to compensate for what you had lost. The more you seek out in the world, the more you lose, because you're looking in the wrong place. Okay? So you end up losing, but then at some point in your suffering, you cry out to God, and He answers. Okay? And then you are then conformed to Him. He takes you under His wing. And now you begin to serve Him for His approval. And willingly now. See, remember, you had a choice. You had a choice. So you went. So then you change from death to life, from a system of resentful compulsion and dependency on the world to loving and willing, see, serving God, for that, and see, refraining from doing wrong and wanting to do His will. And in exchange for that, He gives you His identity, and He gives you His approval, okay, and His love. Okay? So now getting back to the body again. Getting back to the body again. So now you see that soul who now has had a change of allegiance, and now is loyal and has fidelity to God. Now you see that soul now is perfectly aligned. See? And now the soul then is the parent of the body. And now the body, see, which has been forced to respond and react to everything out in the world, and the body has become overreactive, see, and stressed out, and tired, and conflicted, and tense, and everything else that you can imagine, from responding emotionally and in various ways to the world, and faithlessly. Now the body respects the noble soul, and now the body recognizes the good authority of the soul, and now the body begins to respond to the inner light, which now also floods the person's being. See, the person had been living in darkness and deteriorating in darkness, and along with the spiritual deterioration came the physical deterioration. But now this person begins to walk in the light. See, in God's light. And now this light which comes through the soul is like a lens. This light which comes through the soul, see, is now good for the body, and the body recognizes the light. Okay? And the body recognizes the justice. See? And now slowly but surely the body can calm down, be less reactive. less tense, less stressed out. See, and the person now begins to look to intuition, begins to look within. Whenever new situations come along, it looks within instead of reacting. See, and coming unglued, and forcing the body to go through the fight or flight and stress response and adrenaline pouring and everything. See, now the person calms down. The body is calmed down because of the good master, the good faithful master. And the mind, see, also, see, now, because of the faith of the soul, is not subject to worry, and to the strange thoughts and the unholy thoughts and the wrong thoughts and the wrong directions and suggestions and everything else that's turned the person into, that's been totally confused and conflicted. And see, all of that, the door is closed on all of that. And now the body becomes a system of justice, where everything conforms to the good and is aligned with the good. See, down to each and every cell, a system of perfect justice. Okay, serving the soul, and the soul serving God, and in exchange receiving God's approval and God's light and God's love. Okay? My name is Pastor Roland.